guys, my name is Goat and I am here today to talk to you about Bicolline. I'm going to kind of go into what to expect, and then I'm going to go into logistics and then general newbie advice. Now, Bicolline is actually a LARP. It's the largest LARP in North America that goes year-round during several campaigns, and once a year they have a giant battle called the GB, or the Grand Bataille. Now, this battle is huge. It is bigger than a lot of the other battles you might be used to. Last year on the battlefield, I think we had 1,600 people that were fighting at once, so it gets very intense. It's a LARP up in Quebec. It feels like living at the Renaissance Fair, but just for a week straight. Everything stays in decorum or genre. There is no modern tools out, there is no modern amenities like cell phones or water bottles. They really put emphasis into pouring so much of themselves into this environment, and they expect you to do the same in return. So what to expect? A lot of people, when they ask me about it, are coming from a lot of American LARPs. We're used to smaller LARPs, we're used to generally more RP heavy, more accessible, and more hand-holding than a lot of people kind of expect and get thrown off by at Bicolline. What I mean by this is that you might go to one of your LARPs and they might have roaming threats, or they might have quest givers go out. Bicolline does have quests, but they are posted kind of around town. You do have to do some digging to find them, and it's not as easy to jump into it. It's also very important to note that unless you are bilingual, there is going to be a language barrier. We are in their territory. A lot of people speak Quebecois. I don't know if I'm saying that right. So there is going to be some people that speak English, but there's also going to be a lot of people that only speak French, and then some people that speak bilingual. It is super helpful and recommended that you learn a couple basic phrases in French before you go. Things like please, sorry, where is X, how much is X? The more you know, the better, but generally you can hobble on by with just a couple words, because it's really hard to learn a whole new language as an adult. Now, to be honest, I don't know how the geopolitical game works, just because that's not of interest to me. Every time I go, there's so much going on at any given time, between shows, between player-run things, between just hanging out with friends and having a good time. This LARP is very guild-oriented. There are 30+ guilds that you're going to find there that represent different things. You do not need to have a guild to have fun. However, it is really helpful in order to stay a little more organized, get involved with the fighting, and other stuff like that, and also just to have people looking out for you. It's really fun to go and fight during the day, and then to chill out at any of the taverns at night and make a lot of memories. Now, the way that the battles work is they have usually bigger battles that happen about every other day, with some smaller skirmishes and tournaments in between. Participation is completely optional. You don't have to do it. If you want to sidelines and watch, that's a-okay too. Another big thing to note is that it is very physically intense. So combat at this LARP, headshots are legal, and you're gonna have people that are specifically going for those headshots. Now, they're not gonna try to injure you, they're not gonna try to hit you in the throat, but when you have a lot of people fighting at once, it can get a little much. You're gonna see a lot of people wear helmets, either steel or leather. That is because steel is worth a certain amount of points of protection, and leather is worth a little bit less. And if you don't have anything on your head, if you get hit once there, you are dead. Now, generally speaking, there is a respawn point at these battles where if you get down to 0 HP, you are dead, and you have to go walk out of character to that spot, tag it, and then you can come back in. If you guys are interested, I'll post more about fighting later on, but I want to get into the rest of it. So when you get there, even the transportation around the site is very on brand with the theme. They do have horse carts, so when you arrive, you kind of pull up your car and park. You're gonna unload all your things. You're gonna go park your car officially in the parking lot, and then you're gonna come back and you're either gonna cart the things off yourself, or you're gonna wait for one of the horse-drawn wagons to help load up your stuff and take it to where you need to go. Because of this, I really recommend having strong, sturdy tubs, stuff that can keep the water out in case it's raining, and then some kind of themed tarp or canvas that you could throw on top, so that way you're not making an effort to cover up your suitcases and stuff with sheets. This threw us off the first time. We definitely learned the second time around. We got our own little cart that we got just a cheap canvas throw that we could put on top of it, so that way we can load up a little wagon and put in our tubs and then throw that canvas on top and then haul it properly to our campsite. If you're used to going to your LARP where you can wear up a kit and then some like Adidas, you're gonna want to invest in at least some basic garb, some boots, a tabard. It doesn't have to be super expensive, but it does have to fit the genre. Also mugs and your own silverware, things that are kind of fitting with the fashion, so having your own mess kit, because I know that they are going away from providing those things. Now with camping, there's a couple different options. You can, if you have a guild and they have a building or an area, you can stay with them. If you have a tent and it is not decorum or it does not meet of the proper materials or the right look, they do have a non-decorum area. I haven't stayed in it personally, but from what I've heard, you are able to bring your tent over there. It's not super set up where you guys are going to put it, but from what I heard, you can bring your tent over there and set up. It is in the woods under shade cover, and that's that. When you do go there, there is also a bunch of shops. You can find everything from weapons to armor to garb to also a convenience store that has some of the basics that you may need for camping at a pretty reasonable price. There's also people that bake like fresh bread every day that you can go get in the morning, a stall that sells vegetables. They do have a couple food trucks and like one restaurant, I think, that you can go to and order food. It is a little expensive, so I really highly recommend bringing most of your own substance. Just keep in mind that if you are going to be cooking, it is going to be for the most part over an open fire, and there is very limited running water. So make sure that you bring all your appropriate things to either cart water there, so that way you can clean up, or if you're going to do a burner, do it out of sight and then promptly put it away and do it safely. The first year we went, I had a little camp stove that I brought that I would bring out just when I was cooking meals, and then I would promptly clean up and put away when I was done. It's also important to note that the only showering options that you have, you can buy shower cards and use that, although the lines can get really backed up, especially on battle days. Before, you can bring biodegradable soaps into the river, but due to some ecological concerns, now it is no soap, so you can still go into designated parts of the river and rinse off, but there is no soap allowed. So if you have a way to do an eco shower, I highly recommend it. Otherwise, baby wipes are going to be your best friend. Everybody's going to be kind of foul and gritty at the end, and that's just part of the festival-like experience. They do have porta potties there. They actually do a really good job of keeping them clean throughout the day, so that wasn't really an issue for me. If you are femme-shaped, just make sure that you're bringing some kind of portable bag to bring your feminine supplies. Another thing too is that when you're traveling over the border, you are only allowed to bring a certain amount of alcohol, and you are absolutely not allowed to bring any drugs regardless of whether it is legal in your state or your territory. There's a lot of things that are legal up there. If you need to take care of that, then you can once you cross the border. Also make sure that you bring plenty of cash. That is because some places don't have the best internet access, so it is very helpful to have that cash on hand. And also the conversion rate kind of works in our favor on that one. So everything that you're seeing that looks a little expensive usually is a little bit less. So I want to talk about things that I recommend bringing. Things that I've learned every year are a godsend to bring. So like I said before, I bring a little cart. That's because the site is pretty spread out, and it makes it so much easier during the initial load and unload process, especially if you are not there before the game starts or after the game ends. It just makes your life so much easier. Running water is super limited. They do have spigots that you can refill at, but I really recommend bringing some kind of bowl or basin or bucket that you can fill up with water, and then a rag and some soap that you can use to clean up not only yourself but your supplies in between. A It's gonna rain at some point. That's just how Bicolline works. So please make sure that you have some kind of waterproofing. Super, super important. Make sure you have waterproof boots. And I say that because one year I brought thrift store boots that had a hole in them, and no matter how many socks I brought, those guys were not drying out. I ended up having to use little plastic bags to put around my feet to even try and keep them dry until I can get them. But it rained for like 2 days straight, so there was very little in the way of dry goods at the end of that. And then another more serious note that I wanted to talk about, especially for femme-presenting people, but really for anybody, is safety. So because this is a festival-style LARP and because there is so many people, even if 1 out of every 200 people is a problem, that's still a lot to look out for. I have personally very rarely had an issue, and if I did, I had friends and buddies nearby that were able to help mitigate that. But when you are there, please be mindful of your surroundings. Cover your drinks. There is going to be people that are using substances of whichever kind they can. So just be alert. Go with a buddy whenever you can, and watch out for your friends as well. It's very, very important, and you don't want to be another statistic. Also, call people out on their shit. And then the other big thing I have too is respect the culture. So a lot of people, when we're coming from more American style LARPs, we are used to it being a little bit more intimate, used to being able to get into the RP game. There's nobody going around and giving out plots and quests and stuff here, and you can't just come in and say, I'm a fairy queen princess, and that gives me authority. You have to come in. I really recommend for your first time just taking it in and kind of learning the game, and if you want to get more into it, befriending somebody that is more intimate with it, that can kind of help you out. But just be respectful that this is their game, and for the most part, a lot of us newbies are just visitors. And that's pretty much it. If there's anything I forgot, or if you guys have your own advice or questions, please post below, and I can't wait to see you guys there. Cheers!